why did I come to Pemberton is why I've been asked many times. And I guess I should just go back a little bit in history to say that I was brought up in what was a very small community at that time. It was Port Coquitlam, and Louis Potvin was the only other kid that went to school there, I think. And it was very small. There were no streets per se, just dirt roads. But that was my background. And Pat had said before we left Vancouver, she said, I'm a city girl. And she said, I'd like to go sailing with my dad and my brother, and I don't want to have to go off into the hinterlands anymore. I said, well, we want to be 100 miles out, so I drew a circle. Hope came into it, the Sunshine Coast did, and Pemberton. Well, Pemberton was a familiar name because there were always articles in the farm magazines and the different newspapers about the future breadbasket of BC, Pemberton. We got ready to open, and we came up the weekend before we were going to open. The stock's all sitting there in boxes, and a couple of friends came up with us and gave us a hand putting out the stock. But when we opened our store, we had no idea whether we could make a go of it, because we had 4 other mouths to feed by that time, and you don't feed 4 for the price of 1 or 2, as you all know. So I thought, well, worst comes to worst, we haven't put that much money in here. We didn't have much money to start. Pharmacy in those early days, see, when I graduated from UBC in 1950, there were no synthetic drugs. They were unheard of. Penicillin was just starting to come on the market in about, in the late 40s, into the pharmacies. Streptomycin as an injectable had been around for a little while because it was developed during the war. But everything we had, most of it had to be compounded, because I used a mortar and pestle umpteen times a day when I was doing my actual pharmacy work in Vancouver, where it was straight dispensaries, because you ground your vegetable drugs and your mineral drugs in that pestle, or mortar, I should say, and stirred it and ground with the pestle. So yes, those were the days. If you needed a laxative, it would be Cascar or Senna, and something for your stomach would be one of the calcium manganetes or something along that line. So yes, that's the way it was. And we made our own capsules. We used to buy the gelatin shell in different sizes, and depending on the amount of dosage had to be there. And so we had to have a proper balance where you could measure right down to a single grain. And we practiced pharmacy in those days. Nowadays, they take it off the shelf. Well, tablets. Nowadays, it's all Tylenol. In those days, it was all ASA. And these were put out by Frost, which was one of the Canadian manufacturers, and eventually tied in with Merck Frost. So those were the times. And we had it was great because we were part of the community. And this is, as any of you that have been here for any number of years know what a close-knit group this is. And it wouldn't matter who you were or what you needed, there'd be somebody there to help you out with it. And we never thought of the people as being our customers so much as all the people here were friends. Actually, this picture was taken a year or 2 after we came, because we didn't have a Coke machine when we first came. And we lived up here, 500 square feet, 4 children, for almost 5 years. Now, this was the first freight truck, commercial truck, to come into the Pemberton Valley. This was Langley Freight Lines. They came up in July of '64 with our furniture. We needed more space, up-to-date space, so we built this piece here. We had it built for us. It was 1,800 square feet, which was a big improvement. And I should say that in here, when we started out, we just had a very small area, and there was a shop in the back. In other words, like the big trucks and things. So Elmer Hellbang here, along with George Mitchell, they would come and they would take out a back wall and they would put the false floor back there, and the walls, and we could expand that. And we finally got it up to about pretty well 1,000 square feet, I think, didn't we? But it worked well. And we got here, and this was just night and day. It even had a proper washroom in the back, and a storage area. And there's heading into the dispensary. So there was one of our dispensary. Okay, here's our front door was here. And then John Koslich added onto this to make it look the same. And we rented this space here for some years. There's the snow up top of the hill. This was the first garbage can in the Pemberton Valley. So kids come in and buy chocolate bars and they just threw the wrappers on the ground. And I'd say, hey. They said, why? This was the side view, of course. Another important thing in medicine at that time was several. One was that medically we had public health nurse here, Mrs. Koslich did that as a part-time thing. And then there was always a health nurse that worked for the Mount Currie band as well. And if there was a bad accident or a baby coming all of a sudden, they were right there. And what used to be the old, I need to remember where the old library was down here on whatever the name of that street is now, I've forgotten. But that building was the health center. And that's where the babies were delivered and people got stitched up. And if there wasn't a nurse around, Bob Taylor, who had PX Garage over here, which is now the Esso, he would stitch them up. And I don't know whether he delivered any babies himself, but his mother used to. Granny Taylor delivered a lot of babies here. So there were always people to step in. And then would maybe get a call in daytime or nighttime and say, oh, so-and-so is really sick, or I heard somebody's had a bad accident up in the bush. We've got to get them out to hospital. So you check with the railway to see which way there would be a train running next. And you'd get them on to the caboose. And so you load them on a stretcher and you just put them on that. If there wasn't, then the railway had their speeders over here. And these little trailer speeders, that go behind the speeders, they built a box on the back of one of those out of plywood. And that was where you put the stretcher in there. And if there was a nurse or somebody to go with them, they would sit on a stool or something in there and they would go rocketing down the rails. And sometimes people seem to think, well, there was no doctor here, so heck, we were next to a doctor as far as they were concerned. But of course, I had a rudimentary first aid, and mostly you had to use common sense. I had a man come in one day, in fact, if you didn't know him, you would know of him, Slim Fogarty, who was probably one of the toughest. He was a Swede, wasn't he? Toughest Swede I ever met. And although he had all kinds of arthritis in his feet and a lot of toes removed, he had trouble walking, but you never hear him complain. He came in one day with his hand out like this, and he had a wedge of wood about this long. It was about that wide at the top. It came to a point. And it went into his hand here, and it was poking out the back. He says, "Get this out for me." Well, what do? You have to. So anyway, he was tough. He just hung out of the side of the counter, and I got a pair of pliers, and I yanked it out. And it's what you had to do. Back in, I guess it would be the 70s, Milt Fernandez came to town with his wife, Thelma, and kids. And he had started the taxi, or took over the taxi service here. But then he decided we really needed an ambulance here, so he brought in an ambulance. Now, that man probably did more for medicine here than anyone, because Milt may not have had an awful lot of training, but he had that innate capability of being able to size up the situation and knowing what to do, and he'd go ahead and do it. And he probably saved a lot of people a lot of anguish. I know he took members of our family out at different times to the coast, and very close calls, and I have to really hand it to Milt. He did a lot. And then, of course, we had the fire department here, so Milt had had a bit of fire training, so he got interested in that and became the chief. And he probably put our fire department in the modern age. Wouldn't you think, Shirley?
Yeah,
And I have to give Milt a lot of credit. He did an awful lot for this community, and largely unsung, but he really did. The first, I guess, doctors in the beginning, Dr. Kindry used to come in from Squamish once a week, Thursdays I think it was, and come in on the train in the morning and go back in the evening. So that was your contact with the doctor. If you're going to be sick, Thursday's today. It's too late.
You used to say that.
But a lot of people did go out, and of course, there was the capability of taking the train in the morning up to Lillooet, seeing a doctor or a dentist up there, and then come back on the afternoon train. So that worked out very well for people too.